Hi, I'm going to do something a little bit different today. I'm going to do a commentary podcast for Tim Burton's Batman. And if you haven't listened to them, I listened to Geekvolution's commentary podcasts on most of the Batman films, on the Spider-Man films, on the X-Men films. They're really good, and I enjoy listening to the audio commentary podcasts that I've found around the web. It's really interesting to hear people not involved with the film just talk about it. And while it may not be as fun doing it by myself, I think it'd still be interesting to, you know, try it out and see what happens. So anyway, I have my DVD at 2 seconds. The Warner Bros. Logo is there. So if you want to sync your, well, if you want to sync your DVDs, you can. Okay. So, yeah, so I'm not going to do a big introduction to this. I like this film. The last time I watched it in Batman Returns, they do sometimes come across as a little bit dated, but I think they're nevertheless really fun and visually stimulating movies. So, anyway, here we go. I'm going to hit play now. So, what we're hearing is, of course, Danny Elfman's score, and I really love this score. I really love this theme. I think I like it even more than the Hans Zimmer, James Newton Howard score. Even though I think both themes really work well for their respective franchises. I think I'd like to see more. I think it's even more Batman-y, this particular score. And yeah, I love how we're actually going for the bat symbol here. Yeah, and here comes the full theme. And I also like Danny Elfman's score for the first Spider-Man more than the James Horner stuff for the Amazing Spider-Man. Uh, yeah, I think this is a great theme because it has so many sort of different layers and textures. It's thrilling, it's mysterious, it's triumphant, but it's kind of dark. Batman, he's a hero, but he's, of course, he's a much darker character than Superman or Spider-Man. And, yeah, yeah, I like when a credit sequence can kind of take time to really bring you into the tone of the film. And of course, Tim Burton and Danny Elfman have worked together quite a few times. Prince, yeah, Prince is it's the one musical aspect of this film that's kind of dated. Uh, it's just weird to have the Joker be playing it in certain crucial scenes. And as we see, we're getting a little bit more of the yeah, created by Bob Kane. From what I know, yeah, it's a little bit more complicated than that. Bill Finger, I believe, was the actual creators of Batman. Yeah, and yeah, I love when we finally see the bat symbol. I think this must have been awesome seeing this back in 1989, seeing the symbol, and then just zoom in. Now, this film starts with this family being mugged in an alleyway, and what what I love about this family being mugged is that it makes for a second it makes you think that we're actually maybe seeing the younger Bruce Wayne and his family, and I don't think that's an accident. I think that was very intentional to sort of call back to that and uh, to see Batman stop a crime to avenge a crime similar to the one that befell his parents, really, it's a great way to establish the character. And of course, I what I love about this opening scene as well is that it's a great example of a film that doesn't begin with an origin story. that doesn't start at the beginning of the character's journey to really establish what the character is all about, establish what the timeline is for how long he's been around. Most superhero films uh, that are franchise starters, or the first film in the franchise, they usually, of course, start with the origin story. This is one of the rare ones that starts with Batman already established as Batman for the most part. You don't see many franchise stars that just kind of start with the hero already established, with the exception of something like Superman Returns or The Incredible Hulk, which could be argued are kind of pseudo sequels. Superman Returns being kind of a sequel to Superman 2, and Incredible Hulk possibly being a quasi sequel to Ang Lee's The Hulk. Oh, I love this shot. Great Batman shot. I believe that was done with some cartoon animatics. And what we get from this conversation is that Batman hasn't been around for a long time. He's still kind of a myth. There are rumors about him. Um, which is good for giving us sort of like the timeline, showing that okay, that this is still Batman. It's beyond his origin story, but still in the early days of Batman. And I think I think not starting with the origin story is a good choice. I think it can really work for Batman because there is something mysterious about him, particularly for audiences who may not know the backstory of Batman coming into this film. And that's great, him in the background. I think for audiences who don't know Batman, just starring with him as Batman, I think can really grab an audience for who doesn't know a lot about him, and doesn't confuse people. I think this scene, who don't know Batman, they get okay. He's a vigilante. He stops crooks. Uh, right, and you don't need to know his backstory right away. You can wait a while to find out okay who he really is, why he does what he does, and this is great with this shows how Batman sort of becomes this kind of mythic kind of creature. He can't be killed. Um, though it is kind of funny that these crooks actually think he's like a giant bat, because he doesn't really look like a bat. That's the thing about Batman. He doesn't really look that much like a bat. He's obviously a guy in a suit, but it's effective, and this is a great moment. I'm Batman. Yeah, and this really establishes that Michael Keaton was not going to be Adam West. I think a lot of people, when Michael Keaton was first cast, thought, okay, this is going to just be another campy '60s throwback, because Michael Keaton was mostly known for comedic roles. But seeing him at the beginning of this film really shows that he's going to be a serious Batman. And of course, Billy D. Williams as Harvey Dent. Can we trust him? Of course, blah blah blah. And Billy D. Williams, as many people probably already know, is he took the role of Harvey Dent because he really wanted to be Two-Face later on in a future film. Of course, he never got that. He never got to play Two-Face. His contract was bought out when they did Batman Forever. Um, I think he would have been good as Two-Face. I think he would have been like really sly, charismatic, you know, charismatically sinister Two-Face. As time goes on, I really kind of disappointed what they did with Two-Face. Particularly with Tommy Lee Jones, he's usually a more reserved actor, but he's so over the top in that film. And of course, here's actually the biggest star of the film, Jack Nicholson. And how do I feel about the Joker actually getting an origin story? I'm okay with it. Uh, Even though Joker usually works more as a sort of not a literal figure, but more of a metaphorical force of nature. He represents chaos. He represents complete insanity, and an insanity that's almost like a sort of higher form of sanity. And the Joker, he's never really gotten a official set in stone backstory like Batman, like Bruce Wayne, with the exception of something like the Killing Joke, which I think that's the closest we've gone to sort of like an official kind of iconic backstory for the Joker. Uh, that most of that comic is canon, with Barbara Gordon being paralyzed, but I don't think the backstory is really canon. It's more of an interpretation. It's kind of similar to, of course, I believe the backstory for Joker in this. It was inspired by the Killing Joke, him falling in acid and going insane when he sees himself. In that story, the Joker is a little bit more sympathetic. Uh, the guy becomes the Joker. His wife dies. Batman thinks he's a criminal, falls in acid. But in this one, the Joker's already Jack Napier. Jack Napier is already kind of a bad guy when we first meet him. And he just becomes worse. Um, which, if you have Jack Nicholson in this role, I think it works for him to be kind of a bad guy early on, rather than him trying to be, a sort of sympathetic figure. I think Jack Nicholson, he can be a good guy, but he can play a good character, like a good guy character. But I think for this type of movie, it's best to sort of play to his strengths as a sort of sinister bad guy all the way through. And it doesn't really feel one note. Like you can tell it's a different kind of character from when he's Jack Napier, and then when he finally becomes the Joker. Of course, that fat, Rotown cop kind of reminds you of Harvey Bullock, but he's not. He's Eckhart, not Aaron Eckhart. Uh, of course, that the reporter that was Robert Wool as Alexander Knox, who never sort of came back in this franchise. He didn't need to, but I kind of like him in the role. It's not really a character who existed in the comics. Yeah, he's just kind of made up, but it's a decent character, and I like the old-fashioned gangster look that we have in this film. I like this sort of timeless look of this film, the way that it's not really set in a world that makes you go, oh, it's the 80s, or necessarily makes you go, oh, it's exactly the 40s. It's kind of a timeless world. It also has the Gothic, the German expressionism sort of aspect to it as well. Particularly when we get to Batman Returns, that's a pure Tim Burton movie. This actually doesn't feel as much Tim Burton-y when you compare it to the second film. And of course, the animated series, once that came out, the same year as Batman Returns, that took a lot of inspiration from this film too, in terms of its setting, which was not, again, a sort of timeless setting. And I like Batman. I like comic books. I like when the comic book characters are portrayed as being in a sort of timeless world, particularly Batman. Um, yeah, I love the gothic, timeless quality of certain Batman stories. Of course, that's Pat Hingle as Commissioner Gordon. Um, this is a very different Commissioner Gordon from the comics. A little bit more, as the series went on, a little bit more clownish. Uh, not quite as complex as the Commissioner Gordon that we're seeing now in comics. I like Gary Oldman more. He feels more like, of course, that's a kind of cool picture, and a little Easter egg. Bob Kane's name is there. And of course, this is Kim Basinger in her prime. Very beautiful, still very beautiful. Vicky Vale, that's a great name. And looking back on Vicky Vale, she kind of falls into the sort of damsel in distress, screaming a lot of time kind of character, female character that we see a lot in superhero films, or that we have seen quite often in superhero films, or of course in Indiana Jones, Kate Capshaw, which is a little bit disappointing because she's established as a more intelligent character, a character who kind of exists. Now, when she's first introduced in this film, she's not with Bruce Wayne. She's not in every scene with Bruce Wayne. But then, like, she doesn't get a lot of character development as the film goes along. Her performance is good, though. You believe her as a reporter, and this is a little bit like Albert Brooks and Sybil Shepherd in Taxi Driver. Of course, this is kind of a great Tim Burton shot. There's Jack Palance, another sort of legendary actor in this film. A few years before he won the Oscar for City Slickers, they already had become quite iconic for his roles in films like Shane and what have you. And of course, there's the purple suit that Jack has on. Which is kind of a great foreshadowing. Me? Right, there's the Joker card. Can't get more obvious than that. Of course, Jack Palance is really good as a sort of old-timer mob boss, authority figure. It's mostly a cameo, but it works. If you need someone to be Jack Nicholson's boss, you can't just get anybody, and I feel like Jack Palance is one of the only actors who you can imagine sort of bossing around Jack Nicholson, sort of intimidating Jack Nicholson. Either him or James Coburn. You are my number one guy. And of course, spoiler warning, Carl, he portrays Jack, and of course that's what leads him to becoming the Joker. You're lucky, Dick. Yeah, significant zoom in. I like this moment. Just Jack Palance's reading. You did a god. Jack Palance's line readings are great in this movie. Of course, here's Wayne Manor. This is when we're going to be introduced to the man behind the mask, Bruce Wayne. Michael Keaton, he doesn't really, more you think about it, though, he doesn't really look a lot like Bruce Wayne. He's a little bit better. He's much better as Batman, I think. But he's good as Bruce Wayne. He brings a little bit of personality to it. He's not so stoic. He's a little less stoic than Christian Bale. Even though I think Christian Bale is a better Bruce Wayne. The way he plays the two different sides of Bruce Wayne. And sort of all the sides of Bruce Wayne he played for those three films. And of course, here's Vicky Vale with her hair down, looking amazing. Of course, there's the great Michael Goff as Alfred, and as much as I like Michael Caine as Alfred, he's kind of Michael Caine. Like, you can't get past that. But I think with Michael Goff, he kind of just he's just kind of Alfred. That's nothing against the greatness of Michael Caine's performance, which particularly in Christopher Nolan's films, he brings a lot of heart to stuff that's not necessarily heartless, but sometimes a little bit clinical. There's anything I can say against Christopher Nolan is that sometimes he is a little bit too dry in terms of his films. There's nothing against Christopher Nolan. I love the man, love his work. And okay, and of course, as we've already learned, Knox is really obsessed with who Batman is. Man, I like how Commissioner Gordon. He's not a very good commissioner. He's more interested in gambling than in this scene than very much anything else. And of course, this is what leads to the cops going after Napier and his gang. Uh, of course, like Christopher Nolan's Batman, his first Batman film, Batman Begins, uh, establishes that this is kind of a corrupt city. They don't kind of pile on as much as Nolan did in his first film, but with that conversation just there with the commissioner, yeah, you got that. And earlier on with Eckard, it was already established that he was a corrupt cop. I like how this is kind of a different movie with Vicky Vale and Knox. It's definitely the most aside from the Joker, it's the most comedic stuff. I would love to be so Kim Basinger looking like that. Because I'm out in Japan. So you are Bruce Wayne. That always reminds me of Alexander Keefe's for you Canadians out there. I like it a lot. There's also almost a screwball comedy aspect to this kind of meeting up with Vicky Vale and Bruce Wayne. Uh, of course, we know that this isn't a screwball comedy, but of course, a big part of this film is Bruce Wayne's romance with Vicky Vale. Bruce Wayne has a lot of love interests in the comics and in the films. It's not like Spider-Man, who's sort of we always think of Mary Jane or I guess Gwen Stacy, but Bruce Wayne doesn't really have. I guess Catwoman could be his sort of definitive love interest, but in terms of yeah, I guess Catwoman would kind of be like the love interest if we had to point to one. Of course, here, of course, if you don't know anything about Batman, probably wondering, what is he going to be doing? We're just, of course, going out as Batman. Who's then? Of course, Bruce Wayne has cameras. Oh no, why? I guess for security. Because I believe this is when we first kind of see the Batcave. Not the complete Batcave, but yeah. And The thing I like about these films is that the Batcave feels a little bit more like the Batcave. Never really got a definitive Batcave in the Nolan films. Right? Because in the first one it was kind of a makeshift cave, and the second one there was no Wayne Manor. In the third one we got more. Yeah, in the third one we actually got the huge computer. Uh, shoot to kill, shoot to kill. All these guys are in the matching outfits. Black leather. Again, I like how these guys look like 40s gangsters. All have the fedoras on. Of course, there's Bob. Bob the goon with the kind of shaggy blonde hair. You've been set up, boys. Right out. I mean, this kind of feels like an old-fashioned shootout in a gangster film. Um, Pat Hingle was also in Splendor in the Grass, Elia Kazan's 1961 film. I believe he was Warren Beatty's father in that film. That's an excellent film. It's kind of funny that we get a Joker origin story, but not really a Batman one. At least we get the backstory a little bit later on, but in terms of actual transformation in the film, it's only the Joker, which I think is okay if you're not going to do the origin story for Batman, to at least, okay, kind of see how his villain comes about. Yeah. And I think I love this Batsuit the most of all the Batsuits. Even though all the Batsuits, when you see them, they're all cumbersome. They're a little bit, they always look a little bit too bulky. Like Batman's supposed to be. I love that moment. Oh my god. Like, again, reminding you that this is not Batman who's sort of established as, a friend of the police. Um, uh, as I was saying, the bat suits always make it look like Batman would have a hard time fighting anybody. Um, Even though Batman's supposed to be like a trained ninja, well, he's a trained ninja in the Christopher Nolan series. But even so, he's supposed to be like a guy who trained in martial arts. And when you see him in the bat suits in these films, it's like, oh my god, how can he fight anybody? Oh, great shot there. Great punch by Batman. I hope that when we finally get to see Batman again in where it's going to be in our Batman film, a Justice League film, that the suit is a little less cumbersome. Um, Something a little bit more like what we saw in Batman Begins when he was spelunking uh, before when he was in the jumpsuit. Something like that, which felt a little bit more like could move a little bit better. You know it's always going to be weird fighting somebody in a bat suit when you see it on film, but something a little bit less clunky. Yeah, that's also a great sort of way to stage him kicking the gun out of the hand. Just small details like that. As a director, it's kind of you always want to make things visually interesting, even the smallest things. And that gun kick was a small moment in the script, but stands out in the film. Nice outfit. Eckhart, think about the future. Really showing Jack as a brutal killer. Of course, same kind of shot now, except it's gonna be a little bit different. It's not gonna kick the gun out of his hand. That seems like a very staged fall. Now does Batman let him go? Or does he really try to help him? I guess it's up for debate. And this is kind of like what happened in The Killing Joke. A little bit different because, the Joker in that story was not really a criminal. He was just sort of brought into criminality to help his wife, I believe. I have to read that story again. Of course, this is gonna. Of course, this is great. This is another one of those great moments in the film. Cards coming up, and then the hand. Uh, what I find kind of funny about this film is that when we don't see the Joker's face, we only see his hand, and we see him getting surgery. It's kind of creepy and scary, but when we finally see the Joker in makeup, it's just like, oh, it's Jack Nicholson in makeup, and it's not really that creepy. But still, I love the foreshadowing of the Joker. I think Tina Fey called one of her boyfriends in her book, Bossy Pants, an attractive Robert Wool, or something like that. Kind of funny. This is this is kind of a Citizen Kane moment with them being distant, very distant, across the table. And this establishes how kind of lonely Bruce Wayne's life is when he's not, saw the party scene, everyone's having fun, but, you know, see him here and realize that, he usually doesn't have company, he usually doesn't have a lot of people sitting with him. And again, this is kind of like a screwball, not screwball comedy, but, meet cute, sort of romantic comedy stuff. Um, it does show a sort of lighter side of Bruce Wayne than saw in we see as Batman. And of course, one thing I do like about Michael Keaton's performance is the really strong contrast between his Bruce Wayne and uh, and Batman. Uh, of course, when you are playing this character, the trick is really to show that Batman and Bruce Wayne are kind of two different characters. Um, Not literally, but sort of metaphorically. Uh, I think Michael Keaton is able to do without doing the whole "I'm Batman," which is I love that voice. By Christian Bale, but I kind of like when it's a little bit more of a whisper. Of course, this scene establishes that Alfred has always really been once after his parents were murdered, he's the only one who's really been there for him. That's one essential thing about the mythology that's always kind of been there is that Alfred is The only father figure, after his father died, after his father was murdered. The only, of course, he has another family now of, Robins and Batgirls, but, with something like the Nolan trilogy, that always put an emphasis on, how, yeah, as he said, Alfred is his family. And that was very true of the Nolan trilogy. That's what they're talking about is, hey, Bruce Wayne is, he's not really, even though he has a rich, privileged lifestyle, it's not, there's something more to him, Of course, if you know Batman, you kind of know that there's a deep pain in his heart from his backstory. That he, ideally, he would kind of want to be away from all this rich lifestyle and being Batman. And I love this scene. It's a great sort of, maybe not introduction, but sort of foreshadowing of, sort of setup for the revelation of the villain. Um, how we don't see the Joker, we just kind of know that he's the Joker. And I like that he's had surgery on his face, even though that's, God, this place, this surgery basement, it's like the most worst place you can imagine to have something done to your face. And of course, this is kind of like the Killing Joke. When he sees his face, he goes insane. This is what really drives. This is kind of a great comic book shot of him going up the stairs. Just the laugh. Yeah, just hearing that laugh. I can only imagine seeing this back in 1989, hearing that laugh and going, "Oh my God, it's the Joker." It's him. I like the Vicky Vale and Bruce Wayne stuff. Once again, I'm flying like a bat. I think Michael Keaton's comedic role sort of made him, good for this kind of romantic version of Bruce Wayne. Uh, of course, this is when we finally see Jack Nicholson as the Joker. Jack's dead, but you can call me the Joker. I love how you can see him as the Joker here, but it's still like still don't get a completely good look. Jack's dead. Yeah, this is great. The Joker. And a hell of a lot happened here. You can kind of see the purple smudge on the side of his neck from I forget what that's from, but on one of the DVD features, the crew member says he always regrets, the fact that you can see it. The fact that he just, made a game out of shooting Carl, is very Jokerish, you know. he trivializes everything. The Joker. Or, makes a joke out of everything. Well, these are very, kind of poignant scenes. You know, kind of capture what kind of the romantic element of Bruce Wayne's life is. That, it's not easy for him to, have one. Forget when Vicky Vale. I don't know when Vicky Vale first appeared in the comics. What her role exactly was. Of course, showing that Bruce Wayne can't stay in bed. He has to always be up. Three terrorizes. Wait till they get a load of me. I like Jack Nicholson as the Joker, even though you can kind of sometimes, it is a very Jack Nicholson-y performance. It's not like Heath Ledger where he really immersed himself in the part. You can definitely, it's Jack Nicholson. You can definitely see it's him. Of course, that was the point. He's billed first. They wanted a big star to be the Joker. I would have liked to have seen Tim Curry as the Joker. Supposedly he auditioned for the role. I think he would have been great. But I think Jack Nicholson's performance is really fun. It's Jack Nicholson-y, but it's still very much like the Joker. And it's a really fun performance, and you can't say he phones it in because he's having fun. He's having fun in the role. And these superhero films, these kind of films, always rely. They always need a really strong villain to be memorable. And this film definitely has a memorable villain, not just because it's a Joker, but because of the way it's performed, the way he's performed. I may believe what happened to me today. I love how the Joker is trying to look normal in this scene, but it just makes him look weirder. It's like Troy and Abbott on Community when they try to act normal, and it's just really weird. Yeah, as I said, he looks even weirder trying to be normal. I guess this is kind of like the precursor to that scene in The Dark Knight, the pencil trick. Of course, there's no pencil trick, but there is another kind of trick, buzzer, that electrocutes this guy. Yeah, very jokery type of thing to do. To electrify someone using a buzzer. Like The Dark Knight, this show served like the Joker, you know, uh, weaseling his way into the infrastructure of the city, taking control of it. It's a little bit different in this film in that, with with the Dark Knight, sort of, the city was already at some kind of corruption, so he's able to sort of take advantage of that, and you know what I'm talking about. With this, Joker, he makes more of a public appearance. Uh, like the Joker in the Dark Knight. He terrorizes the city, brings it to his knees. Um, only Batman can stop him. I like this, his Jack Palance impression. That's a great move. Pun sunglasses. This is just kind of funny in a twisted way. Him talking to this guy's cinched body. I always remember this effect. The guy's skeleton. It's already burned to a crisp, and it's disgusting. And as you see, it's just Jack Nicholson having fun, being a kind of twisted comic book character. I think it's so creepy when you hear the Joker's laugh off screen. You know, it's just so creepy and disturbing. Of course, this is one of those movies where the beautiful actress puts on glasses and it's supposed to be make her bookish. And of course, this whole newspaper, everything, the architecture of this film, I love it. This doesn't look like an '80s setting. That newspaper room, that newsroom, it looks like something from the '30s or '40s. And of course, this is the scene where Vicky Vale sees Bruce Wayne laying the flowers on his parents' grave, or on the place where they died. And of course, when you see that, if you don't know a lot about Batman, you go, okay, that's kind of like what we saw in the first scene, and you can kind of piece it together, I think, if you know absolutely nothing about Batman, don't know his origin story. But I think everyone kind of knows who Batman is. Um, Now, look at this film is very different from what we got in Batman Returns. It's similar to with Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, how those films, even though they had tonal similarities, had different looks to them. Batman Begins was inspired by Blade Runner. The Dark Knight was inspired by Heat, and was more didn't quite have that sort of gothic tinge that Batman Begins did. That sort of dark, wet atmosphere. Dark Knight was a crime drama. Uh, of course, with it's kind of the opposite with Batman and Batman Returns. The setting of this film, it's not. I mean, in some ways, it's more realistic than Batman Returns. Not much, uh, but yeah, with Batman Returns, it's even more high in reality, similar to Batman Begins. Of course, they're very different. I don't want to sort of say these two franchises are super similar. They have similarities, very different. Of course, Batman Returns, it really became super gothic and very Tim Burton-y. It's set in the winter. You had more of that German expressionism feel. It's sort of Tim Burton, being told, make the film you want, make a Tim Burton film, uh, and he did. But this film is a little bit more, got more Batman-y. It's, kind of quasi. It has Tim Burton elements, but it's Tim Burton still kind of doing a sort of studio job. I'm sorry if I'm very inarticulate. Uh, yeah, I'm not always the most articulate of people, but I hope you're getting what I'm getting at. Of course, this is kind of the pencil trick or feather trick. Now, one thing kind of not problematic about Nicholson's performance, but he's kind of a little bit chubby to play the Joker. The Joker, I think, works best when he's like a really skinny guy. Uh, adds to the sort of scary nature and psychopathic nature, for him to be like skinny. Of course, you have the Tommy guns, which is another great 40s touch. This is his first time. This is when Bruce Wayne. You can tell that, yeah, he knows that's the same guy. Yeah, having Harry dead in this film, it's kind of similar to what we would see now with having a kind of a character from the comics established in a smaller role and then sort of become a major character later on, which did happen, even though it wasn't quite the same thing because it was a different actor, different tone of film when we got Batman Forever. Uh, yeah, we probably see this in our Batman series, Harvey Dent sort of being there from the beginning and then becoming Two-Face later on. Um, kind of wish they did that with Aaron Eckhart a little bit. Uh, even though I really liked when you went to see The Dark Knight and Harvey Dent is not the new character was kind of exciting. Seeing him in that film and seeing how much focus he got without really being a pre-established character in the first film. Michael Keaton and Michael Goff really. I think Michael Goff has this quality that no matter who played Bruce Wayne, you could, the chemistry he had with the actor playing Bruce Wayne made it feel like, yeah, these guys did have known each other their whole lives. Not their whole lives because Alfred's older, but that they've known each other since Bruce was born. Yeah, all the love interests for Bruce Wayne in this first franchise in these first four films have all been blondes. Kim Basinger, Michelle Pfeiffer, Nicole Kidman, and I guess Al McPherson uh, didn't really have that big of a part. And of course, one of the weird subplots of the film, the Joker crushing on Vicky Vale. Though who can blame him? There's another little detail in this film, in terms of the sets, like how this is kind of like a lived-in world, while at the same time sort of being sort of high in reality, similar to something like Star Wars, where It's kind of a very science fiction world, but it's this lived-in quality. In the first three films, the original trilogy, everything was CGI to death in the prequels. This is a weird little triangle. Batman, or Bruce Wayne, Joker, and Vicky Vale. And I guess kind of Batman's in there as well. Of course, this is when the film gets really creepy for me, where Joker poisons the everything in Gotham, puts the weird smile on people's faces when they mix stuff like deodorant and what have you. Like how the Joker still has sort of like a 40s wardrobe on. Action News. Like, I think that's kind of a reference to Action Comics, where we first saw Superman. There's a lot of those things where, it's great blend of just ridiculousness and still very scary what the Joker is doing to these people. Uh, Something I wish we had kind of in the Dark Knight. Wish we had more of the laughing gas. That's such a Joker thing that Christopher Nolan didn't really use. Guess maybe it didn't fit into his universe. The one thing this film really gets down about the Joker, I think, is the fact that he's just crazy and evil for the sake of it. Um, he's poisoning people for no other reason than just because. That's creepy. Not that Joker. This is where we get a little bit more backstory about Jack. Chemistry. Could it be? I like how in this film we see a little bit more of Batman as a detective. People said Christopher Nolan, he didn't really do the detective thing. For the most part, he didn't. I'm okay with that. It's Christopher Nolan's interpretation. Uh, and I like this sort of visual signifier that people are afraid to use any kind of grooming products, any makeup. Uh, But as I was saying, I like how Batman's kind of the detective in this. Uh, because that's the thing with Batman. He's not just a guy who beats people up. A lot of good Batman stories that revolve around mysteries. Of course, everyone else looks like they have makeup on. Of course, those are the main actors of the film. Someone suggested Timothy Dalton to be Alfred in the next Batman series. Uh, I think that'd be great. Timothy Dalton, he's getting up there in age. I think he's going to be 70 this year or next year. But I think he would bring a different kind of physicality to Alfred. Because I think Alfred, in comics now, I think he's a little bit more of a physical guy, Alfred. He even goes out into the field sometimes, or not really, but in what was it, the resurrection of Ra's al Ghul, Alfred was kind of in the heat of the action. Uh, so yeah, I would love to see Timothy Dalton as Alfred. Um, yeah, it's gonna be weird seeing another actor as Alfred after Michael Caine. When Joker, this is one way to get a date with a woman. Just poison everybody else at the restaurant and sit down. It's kind of a great little sequence where she's just seeing everybody die, I guess, in front of her. The only one with a gas mask. Of course, this is one of the scenes that's kind of dated. One of the one of the few things that doesn't really feel timeless about the setting, which is they have Prince music. Prince still makes music, but it's just weird they would use that they would use Prince music in this film, which is trying not to be a sort of contemporary setting. This is what I do on weekends. Not really, but in town, Joker was here. And, this doesn't really seem like that sinister. I don't know. I guess the Joker would kind of do this in the comics, but Joker always thinks in bigger, He's not really interested in vandalizing stuff. He just guess for art lovers, saying this is kind of disturbing. And I got myself as an art lover, so it's kind of hope nothing. Yeah, hope these are just duplicates. guy with the mustache in the stereo. They're doing this film now. I don't know, have an iPhone or iPod. Worst date ever, right? Crap. Joker does have good taste in women, I have to give him that. I don't care who I was until I put on the mask. That's me trying to be Bane. This is pretty disturbing. Well, I guess not too disturbing, but yeah. Of course, Joker didn't have Harley Quinn as a girlfriend until the animated series. Kind of want to see Harley Quinn in a movie eventually. Um, I think she could be done in a way that wouldn't be too goofy. Um, uh, she is actually a kind of really interesting character. Uh, Particularly in what was it, Mad Love story. That's a really interesting story about the abusive relationship. Um, so yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing Harley Quinn. Jane Levy, maybe, who really can go dark. If you've seen the new Evil Dead film, um, yeah, I think she'd be great. And this is one of those sort of dramatic moments that's not really logical, that Batman would come in right at that moment, but it works. Not for Morgan Freeman. Not in this film, at least. This is when we first see the Batmobile, actually, in the film. It's a pretty cramped car. I think I like this mobile the most. I mean, the Tumbler was kind of cool, but I don't know, I like the sleeker kind of Batmobile. I like how she, like, through a section of this movie, particularly when they go to the Batcave, Vicky Vale, she's just looking at Batman and, yeah, it's like, who's this guy? Um, Yeah, it's exactly what it would be like if we met someone like this. This car chase isn't quite as good as the stuff we saw in Batman Begins. Uh, but it works. I like how Batman puts on the security. Uh, hasn't done that yet. Kind of interesting about this film is that you never really see Bruce Wayne dressing up as Batman. Uh, you haven't seen him yet do that. Yeah, Bruce. We never see Bruce Wayne suiting up as Batman. I don't believe until near the end, which establishes that not that they are kind of two different characters. It's sort of the visual way, I guess you could say, of separating them as two different characters. uh, I like how they have to check his body to check his wallet. Like how they have. Yeah, I think you could have told that without the body armor. Paparazzi. Shooter. Okay. Everyone loves kicking guns out of people's hands. And I guess this is the Raiders of the Lost Ark moment with the you remember that scene with the ninja and Indiana Jones just shoots him. This is kind of like that, the guy puts on a big show, but the Batman just kicks him and well, actually no, it takes a little while for him to kick him, but yeah, this is where it comes in. Yeah, that's kind of hilarious when he just jumps. Gets that was a precursor to the Keanu Reeves thing where he brings him forward from the Matrix. Yeah, I love how Batman implies that Vicky Vale is a little bit more than what she said she weighs. That's what it's like in Halifax. Cars just stop for you. But yeah, I like how Batman implies that Vicky Vale's a little bit more than 108. It's like Batman, you don't say a woman's a little bit more than she says she weighs. I like this sort of wordless sequence, as I was saying earlier, with Vicky Vale just looking at Batman. You know, you know, sort of seeing something that seems familiar because it's Bruce Wayne, but not quite knowing that. Yeah, I love this score. I think I do like it more than the Nolan score, the stuff Hans Zimmer did. Not to say I don't love that stuff because, yeah, do. I think I like Elfman's more. Of course, this is when we see the full-on Batcave. Why is he back out of the driveway? Great Survivors, which I guess you could say is a reference to Bruce Wayne himself, a survivor. Survived that night, survived, going through life without his parents. Is a constant survivor. He no matter how many people die in front of him, no matter how many people he's not been able to save you know the through the mythology of the comics, he's a survivor. I like how you can't see his eyes in this shot, or you kind of can, but I like this shot of his face in silhouette. I don't think I've ever quite gotten this scene. What sort of happens after? I guess it's kind of like in Batman Begins, where he takes her back to her own place. This is like another great sort of 40s touch, just from the newspaper on the ground. My pain, and it is Batman. Of course, this shows how hard it is to tell your girlfriend that you're a superhero. I do like how he tries to explain in this scene, you know how sometimes someone gets up, they go downstairs. Of course, it shows, sort of Michael Keaton's comedic timing. Uh, I'm Batman. Not who I, not who I am underneath. It's what I do that defines me. I guess this shows the two different sides of Bruce Wayne's psyche. When he's Batman, he's a man of few words, very stoic. Bruce Wayne, he can't quite find the words to express himself. It's kind of interesting that they show Bruce Wayne about to tell someone that he's Batman. Uh, it's one of those things where, just depending on who you are, you may kind of go, really, is that close to the character? Is that really what the character would do? Um, on the other side, I can kind of go with it. It's a funny scene. It shows how Bruce has sort of met someone he's kind of willing to let into his life. Shows how he does want to let go. I think Bruce Wayne deep down always wishes he could sort of get away from Bruce Wayne or from Batman, from his life, and just live a normal life. Of course, Nolan, that was a big part of Nolan's trilogy. Well, a big part of the last two films. Of course, Bruce Wayne pulls a Clint Eastwood here. I don't know if that tray would stop a bullet. Of course, this is a scene where we get the classic Joker line, well, from this movie, not from the comics. Have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight? Uh, of course, has another significance later on. And again, this guy with the stereo. Maniacal laugh. And I love this. You want nuts? Let's get nuts. In an alternative universe, Michael Keaton could have been the Joker. I think he has what it takes. Of course, the thing with Batman and the Joker is that they're kind of two sides of the same coin, I guess, to use a sort of cliche. They're both guys who we don't know the Joker's backstory, but we can only imagine that if he does have a literal backstory, that like Bruce Wayne, he went through something that kind of drove him over the edge. Of course, in Bruce Wayne's case, what happened to him in his childhood made him a force for good. A sort of complicated force for good. Sort of morally ambiguous type of guy, but ultimately someone who does want to help people. But with the Joker, whatever did in the comics, whatever did happen to him, uh, uh, it sort of drove him over the edge, made this guy lose it. Of course, it's a little bit different in this film, but at the same time, they are kind of two guys. Like we can only imagine what happened to young Jack Napier to make him into a killer. Uh, of course, there's an art link between these two guys that's very different than the comics, which we'll get to later. Anyway, yeah, the Joker and Batman. You can imagine Michael Keaton doing a Joker, as well as Heath Ledger maybe doing a Bruce Wayne. Uh, in an alternative universe. Uh, anyway, I'm rambling again. Of interesting how Vicky Vale dresses in these scenes, and when she dresses scenes with Bruce Wayne, etc. In these scenes, she's more, she's supposed to be a little bit more bookish in these scenes, to, showing a sort of two sides to her character. Of course, this is where we finally see Bruce Wayne's backstory, uh, which I guess you've sort of pieced together if you didn't really already know it. Uh, that's quite a haunting image. I actually do like, of course, that's the question, you know, that people always ask of Bruce Wayne in this, in the Batman universe, you know, how did it affect him? Of course, not everyone knows that it made him Batman. Anyway, I like the way the flashback to the murder is treated in this film, even more than what Nolan did. It was effective in its own way, but I love the sort of nightmarish quality it has in this film. Of course, that's the first time we see the Batsuit and Bruce Wayne in the same shot. Of course, Alfred has always been really understanding of Bruce Wayne's obsession. That's another thing that really brings them together. That Alfred has, for a long time he's been the only one who's known Bruce Wayne as Batman. Of course, his Robin and Batgirl know he's Batman later on in the comics, but it was always Alfred who supported him, who uh, sort of trusted him. Of course, I love the way they go into that in the Nolan trilogy, that relationship. Sort of how it breaks in The Dark Knight Rises. Alfred saying, I can't do this anymore. Of course, this is when get the big mythology twist. they're gonna have a boxing ring, and Batman and Joker are gonna duke it out. This is kind of like the Dark Knight, where the Joker wants Batman to reveal himself. Of course, as I was saying a little bit earlier, this is the big mythology twist in this film, which is that it is the Joker who killed Bruce Wayne's parents. And I think that's an interesting twist on the mythos. Definitely a memorable one. Uh, but I don't know if I really like it because Batman and the Joker have a very particular dynamic, which isn't based around a sort of literal, oh, you did this to me, so I'm going to, get back at you. They didn't know each other in a past life. It's just that it's a sort of not a literal battle. It's more of a metaphorical battle, with Batman sort of representing order. He's a guy who's taking his sort of damaged psyche and channeling it into trying to make the world a better place. Where the Joker he represents chaos, and he basically, as someone mentioned, I forget who, I think it was Kevin Smith. He basically says to Batman, you're a joke, and what you stand for is a joke, and that's sort of the dynamic. Uh, and I think that by making making the Joker the killer of Batman's parents, it sort of kind of feels like kind of a half-hearted way to make it into a revenge story for Batman, to avenge his parents, even though Batman can never really avenge his parents. I think that's an important part of him. His character is that he can only try to stop what happened to his parents from happening to anyone else, from happening to any other kid. Uh, but he can never really truly avenge his parents, uh, no matter how many criminals he stops. Of course, as I was saying before, this whole sequence is really well done, very nightmarish. And I like how the actor, I don't know, I forget the actor's name, he kind of does look like Jack Nicholson. Not exactly what Jack Nicholson looked like as a young man, but close enough. And of course, that's where Have You Ever Danced with the Devil in the Pale Moonlight? That's why Bruce Wayne. That's why it sort of took him aback when he heard it. Of course, this is another big thing that people always mention, which is, you let Vicky down in the Batcave, which you just don't do that, huh? You don't let someone just into the Batcave. But it is what it is. I think for this universe, for this particular interpretation, it's okay. If you're going by the comics, then yeah, it doesn't quite work. The fact that she's just let in, but of course it's a metaphorical thing. She's into the Batcave, which is also is into his heart. Mm. Of course, this is the first time that Bruce Wayne sort of mentions being Batman in the film. Uh, he almost said that he was Batman to her, but first time he really talks to her about. This is sort of the bookend to that scene where he finally, when it comes right down to it, he can't. He just has to tell her, uh, and he finds the words, which is that I don't know, I don't know why I do this. It's just the way it is, which is a big part of that character. He doesn't know why. I mean, yes, he does know why he has to do it because of happened to his parents, but you know, at the same time, why does he have to do it? Why does he have to be a vigilante in a bat suit? It's really goes so far beyond just, oh, my parents died. It's a little bit more psychologically complex. Of course, Batman kills people in these first two Tim Burton films, and that's another kind of weird thing. I think for Batman it kind of works. I think for Batman you can kind of go with it that an early version of Batman would be kind of he wouldn't quite have that no killing rule in place. Um, because he kills quite a few people in this scene. He blows up the entire factory. Not something that Batman would do in the comics, but I guess I can kind of go with it for this. Well, of course, Batman was in the car. I forgot about that. The costume is so awkward. He has to do the, turn around. Or here's another Prince number. Joker really likes Prince music. They both like purple, I think. Prince and Joker. It's kind of like Adam Macy Gray in the Spider-Man movies, right? It's in the first Spider-Man movie. It kind of doesn't go with the whole sort of '60s homage that Raimi was doing. Sam Raimi. Uh, yeah, even though he killed a lot of your friends and family, I'm still gonna give you a lot of money, and you're gonna love me. Well, to be fair, he's kind of crazy. If someone's giving out a lot of cash, I would go. Of course, this is not employed by the Joker to kill people. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Woo! Of course, in those glimpses where the toxic gas is. Surprised the cops aren't trying to kill him in this scene. Uh, Here's the bat, so they call it in Dark Knight Rises, the bat jet. This is where he talks about Batman washing his tights. strange that no one heard the Joker was talking about, their failed and miserable lives. Well, I guess the point is that people are too consumed with their greed to really care. Um, that's something that came part of Nolan's trilogy. How the city itself wasn't perfect, and um, how it was kind of morally ambiguous whether Gotham was, a place worthy of saving. There's Knox being kind of a hero, I guess. Yeah, whoa. I like how this sequence ends. You'll see it as it comes up. The thing Batman had his jet, huh? It's a little bit like in Batman and Robin when, Batman and Robin just so happen to have ice skates, even before they meet Mr. Freeze. Of course, Batman has a jet, even though there was no other kind of situation in the film where he needed it. I love how the Batwing, the Batjet, goes up to the moon and just stays there, creating the bat signal. Uh, it's coming up. It hasn't appeared yet, but I love this, Bob gun. Kind of feel bad for Bob after he gets shot. Here we go. That shot of the Batwing going up to the moon, one of those things that more of a dramatic flourish than something completely necessary. There's no reason for him to really do that move, but it's one of those great sort of crowd pleasing moments. I must imagine I've gotten a pretty big cheer back in 1989. Of course, this is something Christopher Nolan kind of ripped off in The Dark Knight. The sort of face-off between Batman's vehicles and the Joker. Uh, that film is the Bat Pod, the Bat Cycle. It's the Joker and a machine gun. In this, it's even more dramatic. It's a big jet against Joker and his very long gun. And the Joker pulls out his gun. That's another coming up soon, right about now. Joker pulls out his long gun. It's a very, one of those things, I believe it's also from the comics they would have a long gun like that. Except they would only say bang, I think. I like how, no matter how ridiculous that gun is, it gets the job done. It crashes Batman's jet. This is when Vicky once again becomes a damsel in distress. Again, I wish they sort of had something else for her to do at the end of this movie. Um, that's the way it goes, I guess. Make it 10. I guess it was a little bit like Vertigo with the church and the huge steps. Um, wouldn't surprise me. Tim Burton draws a lot of inspiration from, maybe not from Hitchcock, but from, sort of past, sort of gothic, suspense, what have you, stories, films. Now, I guess Robin Williams was also considered for the Joker. Um, and I guess that would have been another case of sort of the actor overshadowing the character. Uh, would have been, oh yeah, that's definitely a Vertigo shot. Uh, what I like about this final act, I guess you could say, final 10 minutes or so, is that it's kind of small scale compared to what we see in a lot of the comic book movies today, where the finale is really like something like the Avengers, where it's just huge and epic, or in like the final Batman, The Dark Knight Rises. But this one, it's more about atmosphere. It's more. It's not like a lot of. I mean, Batman does do quite a bit of fighting, but it's not like over the top epic, um, computer generated, like a lot of superhero films. Nothing against something like the Avengers, which has a great finale, but this movie I like how it's a little bit more intimate, and again atmospheric. Uh, you know. And again, you can definitely see the Vertigo influence. Man, must be a bitch trying to get up those stairs in that costume. I'll save you, Vicky. as soon as I get up these stairs. A bat in my belfry. Is this the same guy as from before? I think it is. That's what I was kind of thinking about before, the Indiana Jones, big show off, and then, uh, the guy just gets taken down in one move. The guy Indiana Jones is facing in Raiders of the Lost Ark. I like this sort of montage going back and forth from the Joker and Vicky to Batman. The music. Uh, and it's kind of funny how close they are, the Joker and Batman, in this sequence. You didn't need to scream, Vicky. It wasn't that big of a sound. It's a nice little touch, the hat on the gargoyle. Um, yeah, I got in this guy a fight with sunglasses on. I've heard of sunglasses at night, but geez. Take them off if you're gonna fight. And yeah, I think Tim Burton really likes Vertigo. He's had so many shots that are basically the Vertigo shot. Yeah. I can't believe I didn't notice the Vertigo influence until now. Because this movie also ends with somebody falling from a church tower. Uh, this isn't a church, but similar to Vertigo, that movie, happens twice. I like the thing with the Joker. If anyone else calls you a beast, I'll rip your lungs out. Your Missinger isn't a beast. Far from it. Also, like Harley Quinn, Mr. Joker. Actually, that'd be an interesting twist if Vicky Vale became Harley Quinn. Okay, this is kind of a weird, This is what I'm kind of talking about. How it's kind of a half-hearted, half-hearted revenge story. Uh, if at the very end, it's just like, oh yeah, you killed my parents. And Joker doesn't really, he doesn't really seem to get it. He's just like, oh yeah, I killed your parents. If he even really understands that that's what he did. Uh, Batsy. I like that. I think that's something the Joker does call him in the comics. In the animated series, I think he calls him Batsy. Now, with the Joker dying, I get that's not a big deal for, standalone movie like this. At the same time, I kind of like when villains can be kept alive. Like what they're doing with the new Spider-Man movies, keeping the Lizard alive so that, there's a possibility that it could come back. And of course, with Christopher Nolan, he kept the Joker alive. Sadly, we never got to see Heath Ledger again in the role, but it was still kind of cool, that final sequence. Uh, you and I are destined to do this forever. Um, I think Christopher Nolan really got the dynamic down between Batman and the Joker better in that film. Uh, pretty with him still being alive. Uh, the Joker dying, in the comics, the Joker, all his villains sort of stay alive, but the Joker is always that one that haunts him. The guy that he wishes he could kill, but can't because it would, you know, pull him over the line into being, someone like, not someone like the Joker, but, where does it stop if he kills one person? So, but, for a standalone movie, particularly at this time when it wasn't a done deal that this movie would necessarily spawn a franchise, when, these types of films, it's not like now with the Avengers and the new Spider-Man, where everything is, thinking bigger, and they're thinking really about continuity. Uh, these early Batman films really went movie to movie. Uh, there's not a lot of complicated continuity to keep track of. And of course, villains didn't really appear again. The Joker at the end of this movie, that's the last we see of the Joker in this franchise. And I like how Batman just gives him the signal. I wonder how that came about. Um, kind of like how in Batman Begins, how it's kind of a makeshift bat signal. At first, Batman uses the crime boss to make the signal. It's at the end, the bat signal is kind of faded at the end of at the end when Batman Begins. And it's still pretty faded in The Dark Knight. I learned from Batman. Guess this is another day. Another day has passed. This is kind of a great moment, you know. It gave us a signal. I kind of like how they wait till the end to sort of have the signal. It's kind of a great way to end the film. I do love this ending. You know, it's the score and you know Vicky looking up there, seeing the signal. It's Batman. It may not be exactly like the comics, but it's Batman. Of course, I believe they mentioned Vicky in Batman Returns how the relationship didn't work out. That's kind of what happens with these types of movies. You know, you have a different love interest each movie. Yeah, with the exception of, I guess, Mary Jane and Pepper Potts and, I guess, Gwen Stacy. It's gonna be around for at least another movie. I love this final shot that's kind of coming up. Uh, and then that ends with, Batman looking at the signal. You know, it's a great image. Danny Elfman's score just rises. It's triumphant. It's not quite as dark as before, and I guess that's supposed to signify Batman. You know, he's still a dark character, but he's, established himself as the hero of the city. And that final image, goosebump worthy. Of course, Tim Burton would come back for the sequel, Batman Returns. Yeah, and so would Michael Keaton. That would be their final film, final Batman film, second and final. Um, it was much too dark for the people at Warner Brothers. Much too dark for kids, parents thought. uh, so yeah, that's the commentary. I hope you enjoyed it. Um, this is not quite as fun with just one person talking. But, I hope you enjoyed it. Hope I gave you something to think about. I think I kind of lean towards Batman Begins a little bit more in Nolan's trilogy, just because it feels a little bit more complete in terms of Bruce Wayne's character development. Where this film sometimes feels a little bit, maybe wish there was a little bit more character development, maybe wish there was a little bit more going on. But it's a very succinct film, it's Batman, it's the mood, it's the feel, it's it's everything you want or you think about Batman encompassed in one film. And I think it's just as important as when Richard Donner did his first Superman film. Now that sort of I gave birth to this film, and but with this film, we probably wouldn't have, we wouldn't have the Nolan films. We wouldn't have a lot. We wouldn't have had the animated series. So, I'm thankful for that. So anyway, that's my commentary. I hope you enjoyed it. That's the third time I've said that. May I'll do one for Batman Returns a little down the line. Um, See you later. Uh, Subscribe to the channel. Read some of my stuff on my blog and other places. See you later.